Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and in this video, tricky one, I'm going to be discussing the issues surrounding the human rights investigation into the Labour Party undertaken by the Equalities Commission on behalf of the European Court of Human Rights. Relates to the treatment of Jewish Labour members and the Jewish community, but also especially alleged anti-Semitic abusers within Labour as well by the authorities at the time in the party. It is going to be very, very messy. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So I will be doing a video on some of the finer details, when the report has been published and when I've been able to read it. It's due imminently, which means when you're watching this video, maybe it's already come out. This is the video about what is known beforehand. The report is said to be over 100 pages. So what I am going to need to do is not only read it, I'm then going to need to see what legal experts have said about it, and then read bits again before I can give my considered views. And I'm not going to speculate here, of course, silly to do that when it's going to be published imminently. But there are things that are known. So the first thing I'm going to say is I do not know how people within the Labour movement, particularly Labour members, are going to react to it. You know, it's very much like Trump in many ways. I don't want to sort of liken some of the people in Labour to Donald Trump, but it is a little bit like that at the moment, where his power is being threatened and he's starting to, like a wounded animal trapped in a corner, bite. There's going to be a little bit of that. Jeremy Corbyn was a divisive leader who still provokes very strong reactions of both attack and support. Sometimes it's justified and considered. Quite a lot of the times it's not. People just identify with a particular side, and whatever happens, they use it to either attack or support without thinking about it on both sides. For example, one thing that many Corbyn supporters, by no means all, but many of them will try and suggest is that anti-Semitism problems in the party didn't actually exist under his leadership. In fact, they actually got better. And it was a fantasy created by the right-wing media. And all of a sudden, the general election's over, they're no longer talking about it, as if proof. What they're essentially saying, if they're trying to argue that, is Jeremy Corbyn is a lying scumbag, which I doubt is their intention. Because the fact of the matter is that Jeremy Corbyn consistently, to his credit, accepted that there were serious problems with anti-Semitism in the party. He never denied that. As recently as last December, he was admitting that in an interview and apologising for it. From what I can see so far, and this report may, make the situation more serious, but as far as I can tell, without having read the report, Corbyn's major crime in this regard is in not encouraging, action against anti-Semitic behaviour. He didn't deny that it exists. He didn't encourage the anti-Semitic behaviour in the first place. What he did was to fail to robustly oppose it. And it's an odd thing with Corbyn, because you look at him, and for decades he's been this anti-racism campaigner. People even call him anti-racist. He is an anti-racist, not just not a racist, an anti-racist. But he's not. He's not. Now, I don't believe he's a racist, but he has some very odd gaps in his activism. There are certain groups of people, at the drop of a hat, he will defend, to his credit. And then there are others, it's like, no, he doesn't seem to want to stick up for their rights at all. So he's not anti-racist, because an anti-racist would always attack any form of racism, any form at all. Not just odd examples. So why doesn't Corbyn, for example, defend the Jewish community in the same way that he would from other ethnic minorities? I mean, I didn't know for quite a long time, and I still don't, but one of his advisors, Andrew Murray, so someone who was actually close to him, and appointed specifically to advise Jeremy Corbyn, said essentially, in their view, it's really because he's anti-poverty, which again is very, very clear. He is absolutely anti-poverty. So he champions the cause of, for example, black and Asian people in Britain because they tend to suffer from more serious economic inequality. But he doesn't see Jews as being left out in this way. He regards them as prosperous. So he doesn't see them as needing his help because, as I say, he's not really an anti-racism campaigner. He's really an anti-poverty campaigner, but an awful lot of poverty is exacerbated by issues of race. That is according to a former advisor, though. That's according to an advisor. What is certain is that Corbyn was given recommendations on how he could tackle this toxic issue in the Labour Party. And he refused to accept that advice at every turn. I mean, the advice to just have an independent group manage the caseload, I mean, that should have been a no-brainer. That should have been an absolute no-brainer. At the point at which Labour were advised to get an independent panel in to deal with the allegations of anti-Semitism in the party, at the point at which he didn't do that, I just thought to myself, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, he could have tackled it there and then, and that would have dealt with the problem. Now, as a result of this, that is going to come in anyway, as well as a whole host of recommendations. The report is going to contain recommendations for the party going forward. Keir Starmer is absolutely going to take those on. Of course he has to. He has to. Otherwise, the trust that he's currently rebuilding is just going to be lost. Now, it also is worth noting, Keir Starmer has seen a draft copy of the report. He saw it some time ago. He knows what its findings are. He took receipt in the same week that he authorised an out-of-court settlement for a group of former Labour Party workers who were suing the party over the leadership's treatment of them. They were whistleblowers who were then attacked by the leadership. And this is where some Corbyn supporters are going to have to make a choice when this report comes out. When I say when it comes out, and they've pretended to read it. One, they've got to realise that Corbyn failed on fundamental issues of human rights and accept that those close to him and that people that they currently support are racists and need to be dropped from the movement. Or they could take a different view. They could abandon any claims that they care about human rights at all, as long as, you know, if the abuses are committed by people that they support, apparently that'll be fine. They could take that view, and many of them will. Now, a close ally of Corbyn commissioned a report which was leaked earlier this year that tried to smear these whistleblowers by saying that they sabotaged the 2017 general election, which was always an odd thing to claim because 2017 Labour did way better than expected. If that's the one they sabotaged, how on earth do you explain 2019? But anyway, that's what this report tried to claim. Now, when Starmer made the out-of-court settlement, he was attacked because the likes of Jeremy Corbyn, Len McCluskey and others said that the legal advice that they had was that Labour would have won the case. And why was he settling out of court for this? You know, it's an abuse of Labour money. He's going to bankrupt the party. And Len McCluskey, who's the head of a major union, then started moves to withdraw some funding from the Labour Party on this basis. But these were lies. Corbyn's legal advisor, his top legal advisor, the one who was giving them this advice, had said he'd warned Corbyn not to pursue this case on the piss-poor arguments that he was trying to make. Basically, he would have lost the case. Labour would have lost this case badly. If Jeremy Corbyn was still leader, this would be extremely damaging now. And like I say, the settlement was made in the same week as Starmer received the draft report. So he would have known the facts of the matter. He knows what the commission has found, and it is clearly extremely damaging. And also consider that this report should have been published last month. The reason it was not is apparently because it's been challenged in a number of areas. Now, bear in mind, there's not many people seen this. So presumably this is Keir Starmer, who, remember, is a human rights lawyer. He will fully understand this report. He doesn't need it explaining to him. He will have challenged a number of areas for rewrites, and the wording is going to be absolutely crucial. And it has apparently gone through some redrafts. So that explains that. Now, just to be clear, this is a formal investigation by an independent human rights organisation into breaches of human rights laws. It doesn't discuss political matters. They've made that very clear. They're not going to make any political judgments. That's not their call. It's a group of lawyers. Keir Starmer himself is a prominent human rights lawyer who will fully understand the implications of the report. Like I said, I do not at the point at which I'm reading this know exactly what is in the report. What we do know is it's absolutely explosive. Absolutely explosive. Keir Starmer will be making a statement when it's released. He'll have been working on that statement for some time. Jeremy Corbyn will also be making a statement. We know that the Labour Party has broken human rights laws. If it had not, if the report exonerated it, we would not be having all of this static going on in the background. We know it's coming. We know that under Corbyn, it was a human rights abuser. That's what we have to face, those of us in Labour. We do not yet know exactly which individuals will be named and how serious their breaches of law will be. We do know that there will be named individuals who will have committed serious breaches of human rights law. And the Labour Party are going to have to take action against them if they want to continue the work of rebuilding trust. They have to. For the Labour Party to once again be an anti-racist movement, it has to. It won't simply be a case of fully implementing all the recommendation report, because that just deals with future cases. That's a given. That will happen. It would be stupid to ignore even a single recommendation or try and water it down in such a serious report. These recommendations are from the Equalities Commission. They know what they're doing. Jenny Formby, the former General Secretary of the party, is very likely to be heavily implicated because she was the one who wrote that report that was leaked that caused such divisions in the party earlier this year. And the leaked report contained, for example, personal information of people without any inclusion, any justification for its inclusion. Again, Corbyn's top legal advisor, Thomas Gardner, warned that the report was deliberately misleading. So he said it was lies, and used stolen personal information, so it was also unlawful. Now, given that Formby wrote the report and certainly authorised its leak, it's hard to see how she'll be getting away with it. The major question is obviously going to be, there's various people who are going to be implicated, of course. How implicated will Jeremy Corbyn be? Did he leave too many people to the day-to-day running of things? Was he too trusting in people who did not deserve his loyalty? That's probably the best outcome. Did he know exactly what was going on, but went along with it because of some greater good bollocks argument? That's not ideal. Or is he very seriously implicated in directly committing these acts? If their report means that Corbyn is as guilty as anyone, then Labour is in a really tough spot. Never mind the fact that the Conservatives will be crowing over this for weeks, maybe months. They'll bring it back up at the next election as well. The media will be all over it as well. My immediate concern is inside Labour. The long-term damage, potentially, yes, is going to be the Conservatives using this. The last failure of Jeremy Corbyn, giving the Conservatives ammunition, for goodness sake. But right now, the issue will be what's going to happen inside Labour. If Corbyn is as guilty as anyone, then one of three things has to happen, and none of them are good. One, everyone is treated fairly, in which case Corbyn faces very serious punishment, potentially even expulsion from the party if it's really serious. Now, that's the extreme end of it, but if that happened, that could create a firestorm within the party, the likes of which we didn't even see in the 80s. Two, everyone is publicly condemned, but beyond not allowing anyone to hold any position of power within the party, which is easy because none of them do now anyway, not a lot is done. Depending on what the report says, this may look like covering up, and that would be fatal to the party's attempts to move on and show that it's changed. So I don't think that would happen. Three, most of the people implicated are dealt with properly, but excuses are made for Corbyn himself so that he can avoid serious punishment. Now, this is speculation, but this may be, for example, why there are so many redrafts and delayed publication. Perhaps Starmer saw the danger in this and thought to himself, right, how do we know that Jeremy Corbyn himself knew about this? And maybe Starmer was actually defending Corbyn as much as he could in the report to get it worded in such a way that he could come across as the trusting fool, which is the best possible outcome. In the third case, of course, the abuse is still exposed. It's very clear that the Labour Party, will be exposed. We already know that. It'll be undeniable. But Corbyn becomes, the one who was too trusting. Wasn't actually driving it. Not as heavily implicated as others. And his supporters get to chunter, but we may escape major drama. But that's the trailer for the report. That's how I see it right now. As I said, when it comes out, I'll be reading it, looking at what other people say, reading it again. This could take some time. But then I will update when I can. But that's it for now. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.